This is guy Ilia Topuria, and Ilia Topuria is one of the absolute best fighters in the world. He's the current UFC featherweight champion. The dude is just phenomenal. But when one of the things that's phenomenal about him is his technique.
The UFC just confirmed the most insane championship fight in combat sports history, and the training footage that dropped immediately after has everyone losing their minds. Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje for lightweight supremacy at the White House. But here's what nobody saw coming. Within hours of the announcement, Topuria was already posting clips from his camp that reveal exactly how he plans to destroy America's favorite brawler on the biggest stage imaginable. And when you see what he's working on, you'll understand why some people think this fight might be over faster than anyone expects. So Dana White stands up there and makes it official. Topuria, the reigning lightweight king who's been finishing elite fighters like they're amateurs, will put his crown on the line against interim champion Justin Gaethje in a unification bout that's happening on the freaking White House lawn. Think about that for a second. The White House. Not Madison Square Garden, not T-Mobile Arena, the actual residence of the President of the United States. And before the announcement even finished trending on social media, before the MMA world could fully process what they just heard, Topuria was already in the gym posting training clips that sent a clear message to everyone watching. This isn't just another title defense for him. This is about to be a masterclass in violence, and he wants Gaethje to know exactly what's coming for him. Here's where it gets absolutely wild. The footage coming out of Topuria's camp right now doesn't look like your typical champion getting ready for a war. You're watching him run these absolutely pristine, textbook-perfect striking combinations that look more like art than fighting. His footwork drills are so clean and calculated that every step seems choreographed by a master technician who's studied every possible angle. And when he's sparring, it's not some wild gym war where egos take over. It's measured, controlled, surgical precision, where he's clearly working on timing, distance management, and those split-second reactions that separate elite champions from everyone else. This isn't a fighter trying to impress Instagram followers or show his training partners how tough he is. This is a legitimate assassin methodically sharpening every weapon in his arsenal before the real intensity of fight camp kicks into overdrive. And honestly, it's the kind of preparation that makes you realize why he's been finishing world-class opponents like they don't belong in there with him.
The main event, Ilia Topuria, one of the most sensational champions we've ever seen inside the octagon, facing Justin Gaethje, which I think is the absolute perfect matchup for him. Justin deserves it after the Paddy Pimblett fight. Ilia Topuria has been just a complete and total phenom, and I can't wait to see what happens.
Dana White has been absolutely crystal clear about how he views this entire matchup, and his excitement is off the charts. In Dana's mind, Topuria versus Gaethje isn't just some solid fight that happened to land on this historic card. This is the perfect headliner for the most significant venue in combat sports history. He's gone on record calling Topuria one of the most genuinely impressive champions on the entire UFC roster right now, which is massive praise coming from a guy who's seen every great fighter of the past 2 decades. Then he pointed directly to Gaethje's last performance as the exact kind of statement-making destruction that earned Justin his shot at unification glory. For Dana, this represents exactly the kind of champion versus champion chaos, the belt unification drama with legitimate knockout artists that you absolutely need to hang a White House card on. This isn't Plan B, this isn't settling for what's available. In his mind, this is the real deal main event that lives up to the venue's unprecedented significance in American history.
Talk about the fights, okay? The main event is Justin Gaethje taking on Ilia Topuria. I like that fight. I think it's a great fight. I think the biggest thing, like off the top of my head, I think Ilia Topuria knocks him out, but I do see a world where Justin Gaethje could knock him out as well. But Ilia Topuria is so damn good and his IQ is really high and he can take a shot and he damn well can give a shot. But the other flip side of this, what makes me excited, is to see how Justin Gaethje approaches it after spending time with him playing football because when he was talking about Paddy Pimblett, he was like, well, Paddy can't kick, so I was okay going into his power. How will he approach this fight against Ilia Topuria, where someone who can kick and has a lot of power?
Demetrius Mighty Mouse Johnson has firmly planted himself in the This Is Genuinely Great main event camp, and his perspective carries serious weight given his legendary status and fight IQ. He's gone on record saying he genuinely loves Topuria versus Gaethje as a matchup purely on its competitive merits, not just because it's happening at this insanely historic venue. From where Mighty Mouse sits, Topuria is absolutely the rightful favorite going into this fight, and his reasoning is bulletproof. When you break down what Ilia brings to the table, you're looking at a beautifully balanced skill set that covers every aspect of fighting, incredibly high fight IQ that shows up in every single exchange, a genuinely proven chin that's been tested under fire by elite strikers, and this serious knockout power that makes literally every moment dangerous for his opponent. But here's what makes Johnson's analysis fascinating. He's also genuinely curious about what version of Justin Gaethje we're going to see strategically when that cage door closes. He's pointed out something really smart, which is that Justin has actually adjusted his fighting approach in past high-level matchups based specifically on what his opponents bring to the table. Sometimes he's dialed back that pure, reckless, brawling style and played a more selective, measured game where he picks his spots instead of just charging forward like a berserker. The million-dollar question that Demetrius is watching for: how much of that tactical adjustment can Justin actually implement when you've got Topuria pressuring forward with that relentless, suffocating style that breaks fighters mentally before he finishes them physically?
2 title fights. It was not the 7 to 8 title fights as was initially promised. It's a marquee main event. I know that there are some people who are upset. I know that there are some people who are trying to say like, hey, this is a letdown. This is an incredible 6-fight card, and it was never going to be 7 to 8 title fights. That was never going to happen. That would screw up the rest of their schedule. Ilia Topuria coming back against Justin Gaethje is a massive, massive fight. It is a marquee fight. It is one of the biggest fights of the year. Topuria coming back after everything he's been through, almost exactly a year between fights, is a very big deal. Pereira being on...
Now get this, Ariel Helwani has been pushing back hard on this narrative floating around that somehow this card is a disappointment just because it doesn't feature some absolutely ridiculous number of title fights stacked on top of each other. He's making the really valid point that expectations spiraled completely out of control when fans started fantasizing about 7 or 8 championship belts being on the line, which was honestly never realistic to begin with. People built up these impossible fever dream expectations in their heads about what this White House event could be, then got upset when reality didn't match their fantasy booking. But here's what Helwani understands that a lot of fans are missing. You don't need 5 title fights to make a historic card. You need the right title fight. And when you've got 2 legitimate knockout artists, both carrying championship gold, both in their primes, both with completely contrasting styles that guarantee fireworks, that's not settling for less. That's hitting the jackpot. The venue makes it historic, but the violence these 2 bring makes it unforgettable.
Done. There was massive skepticism. And I also know that Topuria versus Gaethje happened rather quickly as well. And so my feeling is, and I just want to say, the UFC put the fear of God in every MMA manager out there. Like I'm not really in the fight breaking news business anymore, but I did poke around in the dying days. Once Dana White said that they had to, I wanted to see what was up. I even told guys like, I don't even care. Like, I'm not trying to break this. I'm just curious. That's the God's honest truth. They put the fear of God in these managers, and they've been doing this for a long time, but never quite like...
The MMA guru has been pretty vocal about pushing back on all this conspiracy nonsense that's been floating around the community. And honestly, it needed to be said. Some fans out there have been insisting with absolute certainty that the UFC wouldn't possibly allow Gaethje to lose as the American headliner in a White House main event because of optics or symbolism, or whatever political angle they're imagining. But Guru completely rejects that entire line of thinking as pure fantasy. In his straightforward view, if this fight plays out the way the actual skill and form matchup suggests it should, Topuria should rightly be installed as the favorite to win this thing, and there's rock-solid reasoning behind that assessment. He's significantly younger than Justin, sitting right in the middle of his athletic prime years where everything is firing on all cylinders. His hand speed is absolutely ridiculous. His timing is getting sharper with every fight, and he carries this legitimate one-shot knockout power that can end any exchange in an instant. All of these are factors that Gaethje absolutely knows he has to respect and account for every second he's in that octagon. At the same time, though, Guru sees exactly why Justin still genuinely loves this matchup despite being the betting underdog on paper. His entire fighting philosophy and style guarantee forward pressure and constant violent exchanges, which means this fight should be absolutely insane from the opening bell to whatever explosive finish awaits us.
They're never going to have a US fighter lose in the main event. Yeah, they are. Justin Gaethje's going to lose to Ilia Topuria in the main event in the White House. If he pulls it off, it'll be cinema, okay? And I'll assume that the rig is in. And Topuria has been paid $10 million to make the US look good on the world stage. Because Gaethje, he's the All-American. He's red, white, he bleeds red, white, and blue, brother. You know what I mean? He's going to be there. He's the only American that's even in conversations to ever be in a title fight. Unless they did Yan O'Malley too. Which people would still complain about, by the way. But it's the only other way they could have a US fighter in a title fight. Jones was never coming back. But Topuria Gaethje's a sick fight. Amazing fight. Love it. I think it's great as the main event of this White House card. But we could have done with a stronger undercard. And that...
Listen to this part. When you talk to Gaethje himself about how he approached this whole situation, he says the absolute second this fight was officially made and contracts were signed, his training camp effectively hit the resume button without any pause whatsoever. He didn't want some long extended layoff where he loses his razor-sharp edge, and he definitely didn't want any kind of slow, gradual ramp-up to his preparation. He wanted to roll straight from one intense preparation phase directly into the next, without losing any of that momentum or violence that makes him so dangerous. For Justin, this entire opportunity represents something way bigger than just another championship belt to add to his collection. When he talks about it, you can hear the emotion in his voice as he brings up his small-town Arizona roots, talks about his family's background in copper mining, and that blue-collar work ethic that shaped everything about who he is. The idea of wearing his country's colors on the White House lawn, representing not just himself but his family, his community, and everything he stands for, feels like this once-in-a-lifetime responsibility that transcends sports entirely. In his mind, this isn't just another title opportunity that might come around again down the road. This is a genuine chance to make history on a stage that literally nobody else in combat sports has ever fought on before, and that weight of responsibility is driving every single thing he's doing in preparation.
Out for you? What's the plan?
Yeah, I mean, it starts now. I mean, I'm going home tomorrow, and Monday I'll be in the gym, you know, back. I've had my chef with me since the last fight. I knew this was coming, so, you know, I was not too banged up after last fight, thankfully, and I'm ready to go.
Justin,
ready to get back into work.
Obviously, you're fighting for the undisputed championship of the world.
Yeah.
That's insane. But as a proud American, what does it mean to be main event at Freedom 250 at the White House? What does that mean to you personally?
Yeah, I mean, I can be as cliche as you want me to be. I mean, this is this is huge. You know, this is you know, coming from such a small town in the United States, southeastern Arizona. You know, from a copper mining family. I love this country. I've loved it. You know, you grow up representing your small town, you know, your mascot at school, and then it was college, and now I get to represent this country. So, I mean, this is special to me. It's such a great honor and opportunity to highlight, you know, to finish or you know, not finish, but the end of my career has been so special. The caliber of fighters such as this guy that I have fought since the beginning has been incredible. And to see my story come you know, in full circle like this and get an opportunity like this to be a headline of UFC 300, to be the headline of the UFC Paramount premiere, and to get this opportunity, you know, shows that, you know, I'm something special when I'm in there, and I believe I'm the most exciting guy. That's why.
But here's where it gets really interesting from a tactical standpoint. When Gaethje breaks down the actual problem sitting in front of him and what he needs to solve to win this fight, he keeps circling back to the exact same core concern. It's not just Topuria's knockout power that worries him most, though you'd be stupid not to respect that. It's Ilia's timing and distance management that genuinely concern him, because when you dig into what Justin's actually saying, the real danger isn't just that Topuria hits hard. It's that he hits hard exactly where he wants to, exactly when he wants to, with this surgical precision that makes elite fighters look like amateurs. In Gaethje's tactical mind, the key to winning this fight isn't just being tough enough to eat big shots and fire back with your own power, because that's a losing game long-term against someone this accurate. The real key is actively disrupting those reads, never allowing Topuria to get comfortable or settled enough to dial in that pinpoint accuracy that's been destroying world-class opponents. Even when interviewers and media members try to steer conversations toward all the symbolism and historic significance of potentially lifting that belt at the White House in front of that crowd, Gaethje keeps deliberately dragging everything back to that core tactical challenge, because he knows that's what actually determines whether he wins or loses when that cage door closes and the cameras stop mattering.
Technical abilities. I mean, he fights a very good fight. You know, he does a very good job of controlling distance. His footwork is special, and that's going to be the biggest task for me, is to control his feet and control distance and not let him, you know, find those power shots. There's no doubt he hits hard, and I obviously hit hard as well, but timing is everything. The reason his shots are so effective is because his timing is so perfect, and I'm going to have to disrupt that timing.
Go ahead, please, Kate.
Well, I was just going to say, just real quick, have you spoken to your family since the news dropped?
So my mom,
Wraps the undisputed lightweight championship around your waist.
that would be special, but not as special as accomplishing what I set out to accomplish when I started this journey, and that is to become the undisputed champion. And to do it against like a guy like Ilia Topuria on the White House lawn will be absolutely special, and Trump handing me the belt will be icing on the cake.
Well, congrats. We are super excited.
From a storytelling and promotional angle, people like Oscar Willis think Gaethje makes complete sense for this particular event. And honestly, they're not wrong. On a fight card that's tied so heavily to the White House, to national symbolism, to American pride and everything that represents, having an American brawler who embodies that blue-collar fighting spirit in the headline slot feels completely on brand for what they're trying to accomplish. Even if you look at the betting odds and they say he's the clear underdog going in, Willis calls it a really strong choice from a promotional and narrative standpoint that casual fans can instantly connect with. Topuria is absolutely rightly favored in most informed people's eyes when you break down the matchup technically and stylistically. But Gaethje's fighting style, his proven resume of impossible comebacks, and his ability to turn entire fights around with a single hellacious shot that comes out of nowhere makes it literally impossible to count him out completely. We've all seen him pull off shocking victories when absolutely nobody gave him a chance. And that's exactly the kind of unpredictable violence that makes this matchup so compelling.
Of the whole event, I think you can say what you want about Justin's chances in that fight. Obviously, a lot of people have him as the underdog, quite a favorable, quite a significant one against Ilia. But if you're going to go for the whole American vibe of fucking fly over jets and all the rest of it, Justin Gaethje probably makes sense, right? So I think that fight, it's good, it's thematically correct, and let's say Justin, pulls off the upset. I mean,
Luke Thomas looks at this matchup as something the lightweight division itself basically demanded had to happen next, and his logic is absolutely bulletproof. With Topuria holding the undisputed championship belt and Gaethje carrying the interim strap after his last devastating performance, Thomas says there's really no wiggle room or flexibility in what needs to happen next. The next move in the division's story almost writes itself when you examine the situation logically and fairly. In Luke's own words, once you have two champions operating in the same weight class at the same time, the cleanest and most fair solution becomes obvious and unavoidable. You put both of them in the octagon together and find out definitively who the actual king of the division is, with no questions remaining afterward. But here's the kicker. Oscar Willis sees another fascinating behind-the-scenes story about how this fight even landed in this slot to begin with. He strongly suspects that Topuria versus Gaethje wasn't actually Plan A for the main event of this White House card, and that the UFC originally had their sights set on a completely different superfight matchup for this historic venue. When that preferred option fell apart due to negotiations, scheduling conflicts, or whatever backstage drama unfolded, Willis thinks the promotion found itself having to pivot really quickly, and this unification bout was the highest stakes, highest quality matchup they could actually close and finalize in the limited time they had remaining.
UFC history for the American fan base anyway. So I don't really hate that fight.
And get this, Willis is really quick to point out that just because this might have been Plan B from a promotional standpoint, that backup status doesn't make it any less exciting or violent from a pure fight fan perspective. Topuria walks into this cage on an absolutely terrifying streak of vicious finishes and constantly growing momentum with each performance, looking more unstoppable every time we see him fight. Gaethje's entire career, his whole identity as a fighter, has been built on creating these wildfire wars that people talk about for years and stacking up fight-of-the-night bonuses like they're going out of style. That particular blend of Topuria's cold, calculated efficiency and Gaethje's beautiful, chaotic violence is exactly why Luke fully expects this matchup to deliver absolutely elite entertainment value no matter where it happens to be held, whether that's in a regular arena or on the White House lawn in front of the most powerful people in the world.
So we do this, we react. Ilia Topuria versus Justin Gaethje is the main event in Washington, D.C. for the Freedom Fights 250, the American-themed event at the White House. We'll go through it sort of line by line. I don't want to reveal too much because I want to ask Dana about this at the press conference. I don't think this was the original main event they had. I think yesterday that fight fell out. I think they had alternate plans for Ilia, and for whatever reason they had to pivot, and I believe they finally got something done with Ilia to accept the Justin Gaethje fight at the White House. I think if you look at the American theme of the whole event, I think you can say what you want about.
James Lynch reads the situation in basically the same way when you ask him about the matchmaking logic. Once Gaethje went out there and claimed that interim championship belt in his last fight, this unification bout became the completely obvious choice for the main event, whether casual fans liked other potential names floating around or not. Lynch acknowledges that, sure, some fans out there were loudly calling for other contenders like Arman Tsarukyan to somehow slip into the title shot instead. But from a traditional matchmaking standpoint, from how the sport is supposed to work structurally, the interim champion is supposed to fight the undisputed champion next. That's literally the entire point of having an interim belt in the first place, to create a clear #1 contender when the division gets backed up. That's exactly why, from James's perspective, seeing Topuria versus Gaethje officially land on this White House poster felt inevitable and logical rather than shocking or surprising to anyone actually paying attention to how title shots are earned.
Topuria versus Justin Gaethje. Of all the available choices that they have, yes, would have been great to have, Ilia versus Arman or Ilia versus Islam, sure. But in a world where Gaethje is already the interim champion based on UFC 324, this is the fight that has to happen to unify those titles, right? Because Ilia has the normal title and Gaethje has the interim one. The fight will be exciting. I know people were talking like, oh, you can't have an American get stretched on the White House lawn. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. There's absolutely no connection historically to mixed martial arts and, I don't know, the patriotic trimmings generally. More to the point, like, this is an important fight. You've got an American in it, and if Ilia wins, you're now putting over on one of your sort of more significant cards one of the most important guys currently on your roster, and maybe for the future of.
Hold up, all of those perspectives are exactly why this one single matchup is carrying so much of the card's excitement and energy on its own shoulders, and rightfully so. Topuria feels like one of the sport's most genuinely dangerous champions right now, just slicing through high-level opponents and finishing elite fighters at this frightening rate that makes you question if anyone can actually hang with him when he's locked in. Meanwhile, Gaethje has built an entire Hall of Fame caliber career on willingly stepping into absolute chaos and turning entire fights around with a single hellacious shot that comes out of nowhere when his opponents think they're winning. If Ilia manages to keep the exchanges clean and technical, uses his superior footwork and distance management the way he wants to, controlling range and timing, he could very realistically add another absolutely brutal knockout highlight to his already impressive championship run. But if Justin succeeds in dragging him into a complete car crash of a fight, into that phone booth brawl where technique breaks down and it becomes purely about heart, chin, and raw power, the whole thing could flip completely in a heartbeat, and we could be watching Gaethje pull off a massive upset that shocks the entire combat sports world.
With the main event of Topuria and Gaethje. So Alvaro Cornameno, who I mentioned a couple weeks back, looks like he was wrong about that report because he thought this fight might not happen on the White House card. It is. Maybe something changed. I don't know. But yeah, this is a great main event for the card. Everyone's excited. A lot of people feel like it should be Arman and Ilia, but obviously Gaethje won the interim title, so he's up next. He's going to fight Ilia Topuria in this fight, so that makes sense.
All of that context
So there you have it, two legitimate knockout artists, both carrying championship gold, both in their primes, meeting on the most historic stage in combat sports history. This genuinely doesn't feel like the kind of main event that drifts quietly to the judges' scorecards after 5 rounds of safe, point-fighting nonsense. This feels like absolute fireworks waiting to explode, with Toporia's surgical precision going to war against Gaethje's beautiful violence on the White House lawn. Whether you're backing the technical assassin or the American brawler, one thing's guaranteed: someone's getting finished, and it's going to be absolutely spectacular. So drop it in the comments. Who are you personally backing in this massive unification fight? And more importantly, how do you actually see it ending when these two finally collide? If this breakdown helped you understand why this matchup is so insane, smash that like button, subscribe for more fight breakdowns, and hit the notification bell because this is just the beginning of the craziness leading up to fight night. I'll see you in the next one.